In this episode of the CoinWeek podcast, CAC founder John Albanese joins us to talk about the evolution of coin grading, what the coin grading industry might have done differently with the benefit of 30 years of foresight, why AI in grading may not be the answer, and just how many certified coins have been submitted to his service. It'll be an enlightening 30 minutes that you won't want to miss next on the CoinWeek podcast. Hi, John. Thanks for joining me on the CoinWeek podcast.
Oh, pleasure, Charles.
John, it's always incredible talking to you. I think of all the many people that I encounter in the industry that you stand at the top tier, in my opinion, in terms of your fluency of every aspect of numismatics, from looking at the coins themselves to being able to grade them, to understanding the nuances and the way the market truly operates from top to bottom. And of course, I think your work with Certified Acceptance Corporation has, in the eyes of many people, been a positive and stabilizing force for a coin market that has seen volatility in recent years. So it's a pleasure to have you on to talk with us today so that, the collectors listening in will have a chance to pick your brain a little bit before deciding where they're going to spend money as they participate in this great hobby.
Well, it's a pleasure, Charles, but I have to warn you that I know very little about everything else. So,
well, we all have limitations. So where do we stand now in the rare coin market in regards to the quality of the coins that we see being offered for sale and the eagerness of the collecting base to buy these coins and take them off of the market?
Well, it's interesting. When we first started CAC, we did a few coins. I went to a few coin shows in Connecticut, and with our grading team and our staff, and we graded coins for collectors there, free of charge. And I think we maybe did 10 or 15 or 20 coins per collector, and we were inundated. There were lines of people submitting their coins, but these were collectors that were 10 coin shows in Greenwich, and obviously very serious collectors in the tri-state area. And I have to tell you, I forget what the percentages were. I know I spoke about it in an interview once. I think about 80% of the coins stickered in those two, and I think that was in late 2007 and late 2008, and it was a huge amount of coins stickered. Now, since then, I think about 4 out of 10 coins have stickered at CAC. And keep in mind, just for for this conversation and all conversations, including all of our ads and marketing and website, we break coins down, as you know, into A, which is very, very high end P or PQ, B, solid for the grade, and C, which we believe is accurately graded, but it's not top tier. So during our discussions, I'll be using the A, B, and C terms as we go. But I would say, in that period of time, at those coin shows, we realized that most coins out there in collectors' hands, again, these were serious collectors, were a very, very, very high quality. And obviously, if you're a collector, you're selecting coins that you like, and we agreed with them 80% of the time. So. I think since then, what's happened over the years, turn around and go to a Baltimore coin show or go to a large auction. What you're really seeing there is you're seeing a lot of tired coins, a lot of C coins that have been dealers' inventories for years. They've been going from one auction to another and sort of sloshing around, and they don't seem to go off the market. The better coins do go off the market. So really, when one goes to a major coin show or attends many of today's auctions, they're not really seeing a true representation of what's extant in collectors' hands. So I think the coin market is getting a bad rap for that because they're just looking at a very small segment as being representative of quality of the total float of quality, and I could assure you that's not true. So and unfortunately, that C coin, as we know, it's especially in a market that we have today, which is, I would say, either flat to slightly negative. Those C coins keep pushing lower and lower and lower, and they seem to impact the whole general mood of the market. People see those coins continue to drift down, and we've had that. We've seen that here at CAC, where initially CAC's mission was to separate the A and B coins from the C's because the C's were dragging it down, but it was also to sort of have an early look at what's out there and to be able to purchase coins, not from collectors, because we don't solicit collectors because we feel they have relationships with dealers, so we generally don't solicit them to buy their coins, but we do solicit the dealer professionals that send those coins. We do solicit them, and we try to buy their coins. And what I've noticed is maybe in the first 4 or 5 years at CAC, we were able to buy a lot of coins, and even not just from dealers, but also at auctions. Where if I bid on a heritage sale, if I bid $2 million on CAC coins, I might buy 60% or 50% of them, and I was very happy. CAC at the time, there were a lot of skeptics around, and but that was very pleasing to me because I sort of had my pick of what I wanted to buy at my price. And I was pleased by that. As the years have gone by, a typical auction now, if I bid $2 million on auction today, I might spend $40,000 or $50,000. I mean, I just bid on 3 or 4 dozen Fairmont coins in the last fax auction. I got zero. I got nothing. So it's sort of working against us in some respects. It's like good news, bad news, right? So the good news is that CAC coins are doing well. The bad news is I can't buy enough of them for our market making capabilities. So a common theme today is when a dealer submits coins and I try to buy them, they want to sell me their non-CAC coins, not their because they have customers for their CAC coins. So that sort of has changed in the last. That's one dynamic that's changed, which I really didn't foresee 10, 12 years ago.
Well, I think foresight is one of those interesting things because when you go into CAC, you obviously had some hindsight in regards to how the grading industry developed from its earliest period. Let's face it, ANAX develops an authentication service and soon thereafter starts grading coins. Its product was not as secure as many would have hoped, and its methods required some refinement, which I think comes later. But the people operating the grading service at ANAX and their graders were excellent at what they did, and in fact, many of those early ANAX pioneers are still major figures in the coin industry today. Then the for-profit grading service model begins, and you are clearly involved at this point. What do you think could be different today had you and these pioneers of the for-profit grading system had the benefit of knowing what you know now back when some of the most critical business and numismatic decisions were being made in the mid-1980s at the two major grading services?
Right. Well, I would say if I had to do it all over again, if I had a time machine, one thing I would stress is that, and I've said this in other interviews, but I believe there should be fewer grades, not more grades. And I remember at PCGS, I'm pretty sure I remember. I'm not sure if the grade 53 existed then, but there was this hole. It was 50, 55. Oh wait, yeah, let's put a 53 in there. All right, so it seemed kind of arbitrary at the time, but I remember going back to the early to mid 70s when I worked in a coin shop. It seemed to me, and even going to coin shows, it seemed to me that things were pretty simple, and I really felt there were literally tens of thousands of collectors who knew how to grade Morgan dollars, to the point where they could buy them and sell them, whether as vest pocket or just in order of just getting good value for their money. And I think as time has gone by, it's gotten to the point with so many grades. You look at a Morgan, back then it was Unk, it was Choice, it was Gem, and you had Superb, right? So it seems now that there are so many grades that I think you take that tens of thousands of collectors that were fluent in competent grading, and that has maybe diminished to maybe 100. And I do feel that I think a lot of collectors feel disenfranchised because they see a coin that they like and they send it in and gee, why the sticker? It looks nice to me. It might have a cosmetic to them, and maybe back there was a time maybe when things were simpler where it may have worked for them, but it's gotten so complex, and now we're splitting hairs. Now we have pluses and we have stickers and everything else. It's gotten to the point where maybe there's 3 or 4 dozen dealers that are possibly skilled enough, like to work at a grading service. Maybe there's hundreds. I mean, I hope there are hundreds. I don't get around like I used to, but I believe back in the early 70s there were thousands of coin dealers that were competent enough to grade at a grading service, if there were such a grading service. So again, I think some people want to call it progress, but I think in some respects by adding all these points to the grading scale, and now we have the pluses and now we have the stickers, I do believe we've probably lost some people because it's too complicated, and it's if they're going to buy a coin for $50, that's one thing, but if they're spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, they don't want to just be told, well, just trust us, trust the sticker, trust the holder. I think they want to feel that they have enough knowledge where they don't need to trust anyone. I think it gives them more confidence knowing that they have the knowledge to make their own decisions, and I think that's been taken away. So simplification, I think it's too complex at the moment.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, John, but and this isn't meant to be a gotcha question, but I want to test a hypothesis of mine, and I'll do that by asking you this question. What is an MS62 coin? What state of preservation does a coin have to be in order to earn what seems to me to be a highly eccentric grade? That is the grade of MS62.
Yeah, well, again, I just stickered a bunch of 20 Liberties that came in, and maybe about half of them stickered in 62. And really, the 62s are a coin that, and the way I look at it is, from my perspective, is, well, this coin's not quite 63. It's not quite 63. And other coins that were in the group look like, well, this looks like a 60 to me. So the question is, what's the difference between a 61 and 62? That's where it gets tough, and that's why I think, there always was a 60, which is just your basic uncirculated, 84cc dollar in unk. That's baggy, right? It's a 60. And then there was a choice coin that was a 63, and then there was a 60 plus. There always was a 60 plus. So I would feel that a 61 and a 62 grade, I would prefer that to be the same grade, and that would be a 60 plus. And so much easier. So what's a 62? Like I said, it's a coin that doesn't quite make 63, but it's also a 60 plus. What's a 61? Well, it's a coin that's a little better than a 60, right? But so I really do believe, and especially in that category. In fact, if you look at prices today, I think the market's telling you the difference between an MS61 and MS62 20 Liberty is probably $0 or $5. The difference between a 61 and 62 84cc dollar is basically negligible. So even the market is saying, hey, guys, who cares, right? So I would prefer that. And again, go back to VF grade. I mean, a 20 or a 25. You had a 1796 quarter and 20, and here's a 25. I mean, I would challenge anyone to tell me the difference. All right, I'm sure it's in photo grade somewhere, but there doesn't seem to be a need, and very fine to have 15 points of grading scale being hogged up, hogged by just the VF grade. So I could see a coin that barely makes VF. I could see a coin that's really choice VF, almost an XF, and something in between. I don't think we need 4 grades.
Well, what you said does sum up for me, and maybe also for those who are students of coins, regularly listen to the podcast. And many people, I think, have already formed their own opinion about coin grading. But the thing I think that collectors really need to keep in mind is that there really is no codified industry standard for what these mint state grades mean. I mean, there really isn't. What there is a system of norms and standards, things that are principally agreed on, but both services have their own internal standards. Collectors have their own standards. Dealers, who see more coins than almost all of us, see enough coins to recognize patterns and understand which coins might be undergraded or which coins are overgraded. But your answer to my question about MS62 shows the degree at which these grades are in practice judgment calls. And judgment varies from one person to the next. So at this point, unless somebody introduces, I think, an artificial intelligence system to the process, and this AI has the responsibility of scrutinizing the coin and reinforcing the norms, I think we will always be married to a system that lacks precision. And I think that it will be increasingly necessary for us to address this issue if we hope to grow the vintage side of the hobby over the course of the next 10 or 15 years.
Well, I mean, possibly. Although, I have to tell you, and I've been scolded for this, saying this, but I still feel it, that I've always felt that in some respects, like, hey, I don't really know how to grade a coin, but I know how to value a coin. So a lot of, in many cases, the reason why, let's say, a grading service may work or may not work is does it correspond to the real value? So, and I have to tell you, it's probably instinctually, and it probably happens in a split second, but someone shows me a Barber quarter and says, this is MS65, and I just say, no, it's not, because I would never pay 65 money for it. Therefore, it's not a 65 in my mind. Whether it makes it on technical merit or not, if it's not worth 65 money, you really have no credibility of that coin being a 65 holder. So even though you might argue we have no standards, and it's a loose statement, what I could tell you is that I just know that in my days on the bourse floor, I mean, I could assemble 30 or 40 coin dealers, give them 300 coins from soup to nuts, of different grades and different denominations, and have them make a bid on it, all right? And you'd be amazed how those 30 guys, 40 guys, their bids would be all bunched up together within, there might be an outlier, someone's 10 or 20% too low, but you'd have a lot of guys. Most of those guys would be in a 5% range on a six-figure deal. So they figure them for the same amount of money. They know what they're worth, okay? So that sort of, it sort of tells me that there is a consensus. I mean, there's a consensus of value, and that's why I've always felt, as far as CAC goes, and I'm sure you've seen back in the old days, the two old codgers at a coin show argue about the grade of a coin, and one is saying 64 and one is saying 65. What it really amounts to is, what can you sell the coin for? You might be able to argue all you want on technical and intellectual merits that the coin's a 65, but if you can't translate that into dollars at a coin show, well then guess what? You might be right, but you're really not. You're really wrong, because you'll never get 65 money for it. So I like to look at, and that's why we focus on A and B coins. I like to look at it as, if this coin were out of the holder, you would still get 65 money for it. Peel the sticker off, crack it out of the holder, and still get 65 money. That's how I like to look at CAC coins, as being, going back to the days before grading services, what was it worth out of the holder. So.
Well, I think that's an important point and an important distinction. And again, I'm not suggesting that I don't think that the industry has a mainstream attitude about what quality coins are. I just feel that the grade on a coin is shorthand and was never designed to be the final word. And a case in point is you could take 100 MS65 1883 CCs and GSA holders, or just pop out GSA holders, and they could all be like accurately and graded, and still collectors would probably bunch up and take a percentage of them and see them as being the superior coins. And then I think this gets down to your A, B, and C concept. I imagine in your philosophy, a C coin is in most cases likely an overgraded coin. But that coin might actually be a nice coin if it was a grade down.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
And actually, just so you know,
yeah,
that we're very we make that point that we don't believe a C coin's overgraded. And that's the and we've gotten some criticism recently from Jeff Garrett where it's like, hey, you have the luxury of putting a sticker on a coin or not, and that's true. And the fact of the matter is, if CAC were a grading service and a barber quarter came in that was a 65C, we'd have to grade at 65 because that's doing our job correctly. So they have to put them all in the same holder, A's, B's, and C's. They're doing their job. Now, if grading services change their position and just grade a coin 65 A, B, or C, that would be different. I believe now they have an A grade, which is the plus, but still leaves a question mark for is it a B or is it a C. I do believe a 65C is accurately graded, but it's not a coin that I would necessarily want to handle in some cases. I mean, for an 1892 Barber quarter, I wouldn't want to handle it, or a 92 Barber quarter, because there's plenty of A and B coins around there. But if I'm looking for a 1796 2.5, which I purchased last week unstickered, and an 1808 2.5 I purchased last week unstickered, they're respectable coins. They were C coins. They weren't stickered. I still bought them because if I have to wait to buy an A or B coin in either of those coins, I could be waiting for 5 years. And my wholesale customer said, "Get me that coin as long as it's accurately graded." So I found them, I found adequate C coins, and I had no problem selling them, and I no problem sleeping that night. So I disagree that a C coin is not an overgraded coin. And again, in some cases, I will buy C coins, and usually there are cases where I can't buy the A or B coin. If it's an 84 CC $1.65, why buy a C coin for $3.25 when you could buy a B plus for $3.90? It doesn't make any sense, right? And there's plenty of sticker coins available.
right, but at the same, I guess I'm saying that at the same time, when we were talking about the plus coins and the star coins and all these sort of the A grade coins, I mean, it is not unusual to see these coins resubmitted a few times, eventually earning an upgrade.
Well,
and I can't review an auction at any of the major auction houses without seeing like some of the most desirable and attractive eye-appealing coins show up, and then any 5 minutes of research revealing, oh, this sold 4 months ago and it was in a 66 holder, now it's in a 66 plus holder. And the thing that kind of is frustrating, I think, to the market is the inefficiency the market has in people, having proper knowledge when they're buying a coin. I'm not suggesting that in this situation the coin's wrongly graded in the first case or the second case. I really don't know. But it is inefficient. And, and so when you get to the position where, you have a more sophisticated client base, people who can easily Google, find this readily available information and see that the grades are more or less nebulous in some instances, even for nice coins, then I think that it just speaks to what I'm saying is there really is no codified standard where it's rigid and, the grading services either obey it or don't obey it. I mean, these are coins that are graded essentially to taste of the major companies that are in the business of grading coins.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I don't know, Charles. We had a coin come in today that was 62. It was a Pioneer Gold coin. We stickered it. It was, nice original coin. Yeah, it wasn't an A coin, but it was like, it was fine. I would call it a B coin. And I found out later that it was a coin that we stickered as a 61 a few years ago, and it didn't get a gold sticker. So were we wrong? I don't know. I mean, I felt comfortable really with both grades, but again, it's a grade that we just spoke about, which is sort of unnecessary, 61 or 62. I mean, nice original coin, brand new, nothing major wrong with it. Not quite a 63. And was I embarrassed that we stickered it? I mean, maybe just a few percent embarrassed, but I know for certain we'll get no criticism on stickering this coin, and it's so much better from what else is out there in C holders. So, going back to our original question, is that if there were fewer grades, it would make it a lot easier to be consistent. Obviously, right? If we graded coins from a 1 to 10 scale, like baseball cards, it'd be a heck of a lot easier, right? But it's kind of hard to go back there. Maurice Rosen is like, John, it's too late, but I don't know if it's too late. But is it really too late to get rid of 61 and 62? I'm not sure.
Like I said, I just hope we get to the point where we adapt to what AI can provide. I mean, they're sophisticated 2D and 3D imaging platforms. And like I said, I just hope we get to the point where we adapt AI to what we're doing. There are sophisticated 2D, 3D imaging platforms that are being marketed to the European mints in order for the mints to control the quality of their products. You see the use of this type of technology in other sectors where precision is necessary. And again, I don't want it because I think that the graders haven't done a good job and that they're not knowledgeable. I think for the most part, the system works. And I think on the whole, what we have had is a tremendous change agent for good for this industry. And it's created billions of dollars of arbitrage and provided collectors and dealers with a great deal of information. So I'm not against grading coins at a professional level. I'm quite in favor of it. I just think I see the potential for a technological revolution to reinvigorate our market and add specificity to the graded product. And this could have, I think, a profound impact on the way coins are bought and sold. And so that's why I'm in favor of an evolution of the product and the service.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I've spoken to, and this is maybe even going back at NGC days, but even recently, I've heard a few proposals about artificial intelligence, computer grading, and things like that. And what I've learned is, well, first of all, there are supercomputers now that can beat the best chess players. All right, which I don't think has happened for decades of computing. But you have to remember those supercomputers they're being fed data from Bobby Fischer's Best Game or Kasparov. All these chess masters for over the years, they're being fed so-called correct information to be able to beat the pros, and now they're doing it. They have a higher rating. And as far as coins go, and as you know, let's go back to an 84 CC dollar, and let's say 66, right? You could have a few bag marks, light bag marks on it, but it really does matter where the bag marks located, not just quantifying and counting the amount of depressions from marks, but where they're located, of how they hit your eye, is it shiny, is it dull, on and on and on. I mean, there's a reason why coin doctors will use the thumb, or I don't know if they still do, thumb silver dollars. It's not to take the bag mark away, but it's to make them less shiny, to remove mint luster and fill in the crevice with mint luster, so the bag mark isn't as dramatic. So as far as artificial intelligence for coin goes, you better be sure that the data you're feeding into the computer, that coin is graded correctly, that you're feeding the computer. So if we're not talking about something like Bobby Fischer and Kasparov here. We're talking about who's going to give the information to the computer to teach it. And if they're not correct, well, then the computer's going to be incorrect, or the so-called artificial intelligence will be incorrect. So I think the computer is as good as its programmer.
No, absolutely. But if you think about it, grading services see quite a few coins. So the ability to provide this input over thousands and thousands of coins will ultimately tighten up the standard. And so from my perspective, anything that can be done to add value to the service and provide more precision to the buying process only serves to help collectors understand exactly what it is that they're looking at before they lift the paddle. So when it comes to the totality of the gradable, desirable coins in the market, what percentage of these coins do you think have been graded by the services to date?
That's hard to say. I mean, when you say desirable, so the issue I have is you have to think of a price point. So when you talk about an 84 CC dollar, I mean the mintage is in the hundreds of thousands, and most of them are uncirculated. So there's probably still a lot more coins out there in GSA holders to be graded. If you're talking about coins over $5,000, I would bet the majority has been graded by the services of coins of of that realm. As far as the and to quantify, it's kind of impossible. I believe that there's a lifetime supply of coins under $1,000 for services between the silver commemoratives that were never circulated. There's hundreds of thousands that are uncirculated today in albums, the GSA dollars, the bags of Morgans out there, all the gold coming out of Europe. I think there's a lifetime supply now. If we're talking about proof trade dollars or coins that I would consider more relevant, I think for certain it's probably 75% or more have been seen.
So if 75% or more of these relevant coins have been seen, how many of them do you think have cycled through your service?
Well, again, CAC, we've been around now for like 11 years, and again, it's impossible it's impossible to answer that in a general way. But let's go to another type one. Let's go to like a bust half dollar, for example. Now, bust half dollars, the lettered edge, let's say at 1834, 1836, that coin today in CAC MS65 wholesales for roughly $8,500, right? And without a sticker, they wholesale for about anywhere from $4,500 to $5,000 on the average. So there's obviously a $4,000 premium to obtain a CAC sticker, and it's always had a large premium from day one because the A and B coins look so much better than the C coins, and that's just the way and again, this is the way they traded before CAC is accepted. You can go back to the last 20 or 30 years, and an A and B bust have always traded for a big percentage or a multiple over a C coin. So the fact is, coin dealers, I believe coin dealers as a whole are, especially the top few hundred, they're very, very sharp guys. They're adept at risk arbitrage. They're great poker players, backgammon players, and that they've been sort of doing this their whole lives, whether they're in coin shops or in their neighborhood trading with other kids. They sort of have an advantage, I think, in a lot of areas in business. But I mean, so to send a coin in for $15 to get a $4,000 advantage, it's pretty likely that if there's a bust half out there in 65 floating around at a major coin show, it's highly likely that coin's been to CAC because they're not going to leave $4,000 on the table. They're going to risk $15 to make $4,000, right? Why not, right? So I would say on that kind of a coin, we've seen most of the coins that are on the market today or that have been on the market for the last 10 or 12 years. If you go, dial back into that coin in 64, now we have a coin that's either 2,500 or 3,000. Now there's a $500 advantage. So now you would argue that the coin may not have ever been the CAC, right? So it's possible that we haven't seen the coin, and again, go back to AU 50 or something, a lower AU grade where it's either 300 or 350. There's a very good chance we haven't seen the coin. So it really depends. I mean, when you think of CAC and what's been the CAC and what hasn't, I think if you look at what they call the spreads, high spread coins, if there's a high spread, it's highly likely. If there's a low spread, it's less likely, right? So, I mean, as you know, you could go on a Bourse floor today, and you could buy. Let's say, a Norfolk commemorative in MS66, okay? Pay about $300 for it. You could get your grandmother's or your mother's silver polish out, crack it out of the holder, and polish it up, and you probably lose like $50, right? Because the basal level is very, very high. So it's amazing today the spreads on a lot of those commemoratives in the 1930s, from XFAU to MS66. There's almost no spread. So it really doesn't make sense. There's not a big incentive to send those coins to get stickered or even crack a coin out to get a higher grade. Well, what's the difference? You crack out a 63 Roanoke and you get a 64, you made $2, right? And it cost you $20 to do it. So that's why it's hard to answer these questions in general, because it really depends. And the easy answer is, as I mentioned, if it has a high spread, it's highly likely.
Well, I think it's relevant information, and I think collectors should understand this information. If you're a collector that wants to keep up with what's going on in the market, it's important to know that you can have a rare coin in a high grade that has a CAC sticker. Then that means that you've seen it and that it's an A or B coin. And at the same time, you should understand the economics that would incentivize a dealer to submit these coins, because the market bears that these coins do bring better money. Better coins always bring better money, CAC sticker or no. That's always been the case. But that if a coin is valuable and does not have a CAC sticker, then you should probably ask a few questions to the person who's selling the coin. Has the coin been submitted, and why not? Ask yourself, does the coin stand out and have a desirable look? Ask the dealer, what's their opinion? Is this the right coin for you and your collection? And your collection is custom tailored to your budget, your taste, your whatever your time frame is. A coin can still be absolutely 100% right for you in your collection. And if that's the case, you don't have to wait to find one with a CAC sticker. I mean, they may not appear in the market, or they may not be within your means. So there is nuance to what's going on here.
I was looking for a hybrid car, a plug-in hybrid, and I went to Mercedes, where I normally would get my cars, and I asked them if they had one, and they started knocking them. Oh, they're garbage. They're this. They're that. It gave me all sorts. They have a bigger carbon footprint. I got the whole speech, And then, again, and I realized something. First of all, dealers sell what they have. If you go to a coin show and a dealer has lots of CAC coins, half or more, they're going to extol the virtue of CAC coins. And you go to another dealer's showcase and he has 0 CAC coins, or 1 or 2, he's going to tell you it's a scam. I mean, let's face it. This is what happens. People push what they own. They sell what they own, and that's just the way they do it. And a lot of people can see through that. I believe. I think intelligent buyers can see through it. We are not popular with Crackout dealers. Let's face it, we're not. It's another obstacle. Okay, so I don't expect Crackout dealers, to be on the CAC side. And CAC has about 20 to 24 shareholders. Some large retail coin dealers, some boutique retail coin dealers, and some well-known, some large collectors. I turned down at least a half dozen dealers that were friends of mine, that were Crackout dealers that wanted to be shareholders of CAC, and even though they're non-voting, and I refused them to be shareholders, because they're on a different side, they're on a different team. And you go to a major coin show today, and if out of 100 dealers going to that show to do business, maybe 60 or 70 of them are at the show looking to find the A coin that they can get into the C holder. So they're looking for 66s that they can crack out to get into a 67 holder, and that's a Crackout dealer. They're looking to buy coins and get them in the highest grade holder possible and sell them quickly. All right, and then you have another group of dealers, maybe 30-40% of them, that are going to the show. These are the legends and the Joe O'Connors and the Warren Mills and the Doug Winters. They're going to a show to look for the grade coins, A's or B's, to bring back for their clients, right? So you do have this tug of war. You go to an auction, and there's a competition. What's the competition? You have collectors that want to buy coins for their collection. You have dealers trying to buy nice coins for their clients, and you have other dealers trying to buy coins to crack out. So I don't expect, to be, the most popular guy in the room. And I don't expect that contingent of Crackout dealers to say positive things or to write positive things about CAC. In fact, I actually enjoy the fact that they don't like CAC, because if those guys like CAC, then we got a big problem.
If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. Remember, you can go to our entire archives by going to our YouTube channel, CoinWeek, or downloading them individually at the iTunes store. For CoinWeek, I'm editor Charles Morgan. Till next time, happy collecting.